Anthologies aren't just a throwaway horror subgenre. They actually provide some of the most creative, creepiest, and sometimes some of the most iconic stories told. So today we're going to talk about 15 horror anthologies that are 100% worth your time. What's up, horror nerds? Thank you for tuning in to another episode here at Figure Out Films. I'm your host, as always, Chris, and today we are going to talk about horror anthologies. If you're new to horror and you don't know what anthologies are, they're actually these small segment mini stories that wove into one whole narrative, and honestly, they provide some of the most creative and some of the creepiest and inventive stories that are like about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes long. Usually, these horror films will have 2, 3, sometimes even 5, 6, or 7. So it's a wide range in this subgenre. It's honestly grown in popularity. It's one of my favorite horror subgenres. And today we're gonna talk about 15 that I recommend that you have to check out. If you're new to this channel and you haven't watched other videos before, please hit that subscribe button so you can go ahead and check out some of our awesome videos in the past. And if you are returning again, thank you again for the support. Hope you enjoy this video. Let's go. At number 1, we're going to start with the 2007 film Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat, this is probably the most iconic, most memorable modern horror anthology. This one is like gangbusters. This is the movie where we follow Sam, who is a pumpkin-headed enforcer of Halloween. Basically, this kid is obsessed with Halloween. It takes place on Halloween night, and there are people who are not following the rules of trick-or-treating, and he's there to set it right. We get 3 integral stories, one starring Brian Cox as well, where Sam and other sorts of horror monsters are basically following the tradition of Halloween. We get a werewolf group. We get a neighbor who is obsessed with performing surgeries and why you should always check your candy. These are some very, very entertaining horror segments, and honestly, the vibes of this movie just carry it through the entire runtime. It is one of the best horror anthologies that you can check out. Sam is so iconic with this movie. This is an annual watch when the leaves start to turn orange and brown. I can't recommend this movie enough. Coming in at number 2 is Tales from the Hood from 1995. This is a horror anthology that hits hard, not only because of the spooks and the horror, but also because the social injustice that we witness on screen that is still relevant today. These 3 men go into a mortuary where there's an undertaker played by Clarence Williams III, who seems a little sinister, but he's telling these 3 stories about people from their community who have died and how they died due to social injustice, abuse, and other sorts of misfortunes. This is a very well constructed and horror anthology. You get 3 separate stories that are so well told. There's some things that are still relevant today, and honestly even more relevant now than probably it was in 1995. This is truly an engaging, entertaining, and thought-provoking horror anthology that you have to check out. This is essential viewing, folks. You can check this out through Scream Factory as well, but it's also streaming on Tubi. So at number 2 is Tales from the Hood. Coming at number 3 is a 1980s classic. This is one of the most iconic horror anthology, I would say. This is a George A. Romero and Stephen King collaboration. This is the iconic 1982 Creepshow. Now, Creepshow is a comic book campy style horror anthology. You get 5 stories here from Stephen King and George A. Romero, and you have Tom Savini on special effects. These stories are basically the most essential horror anthologies. They're so iconic. You will see the effect that this horror anthology has on other more modern horror anthologies we talk about on this list because it is so well done. You get such iconic shorts like the Crate. You get a cockroach infested, they're creeping up on you segment as well. You get sea monsters. You get other actors in this horror anthology that is just so entertaining. One thing I will say about Creepshow is it runs a little long at 120 minutes. There's 5 segments here. I would say 3 out of the 5 are actually really amazing, and the other 2 are still pretty good, but it is a little bit of a longer anthology, but it is worth it. This is an iconic must-watch horror anthology. If you've not seen Creepshow, then what are you doing? You got to go check it out now. I love the comic book story with Tom Atkins' dad here, and the boy with the Creepshow comic. You even get a Stephen King short as well in here. It doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't get any better than Creepshow. Coming in at number 4 is a more modern take on the horror anthology, mixed in with found footage. It spawned so many sequels, but we're going to talk about the one that started it all from 2012, VHS. VHS is found footage mixed in with horror shorts to combine together to create a super visceral, super creepy, and honestly terrifying an experience. VHS is basically these friends who have a video camera and they record themselves doing pranks on people, and they break into this man's house, find a bunch of VHS tapes, decide to start watching them, and then they realize throughout this movie that each tape shows some sort of horror. It is extremely creepy, not only because of the VHS aesthetic, but some of these stories are such perfect use of old technology of VHSs and camcorders, getting things like streaks and being able to not fully see the thing on frame. The stories are really creepy as well with the effects of the lighting. There's an incredibly peak haunted house story in this one from 10/31/1998 as an episode, and then the Amateur Night, which I believe is the opening VHS tape. Truly nightmare fuel horror here. I did struggle to get through this a little bit because it was a little bit more terrifying than I expected it to be. You had Ty West, Scott Derrickson, and other horror directors who put their name on this with their short stories as well. This is a horror anthology for the YouTube generation. Like I said, this came out in 2012. This is a must watch. I'm very much anticipating watching the other sequels as well. This is a little bit more of a sleazy horror anthology as well, but I gotta give it credit. It is pretty entertaining. So at number 4 is VHS. Coming in number 5 from 1993 is Body Bags. Body Bags from 1993 is John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper combined together to give 3 horror anthology shorts that are about horror, sci-fi, serial killers, and just insane horror transplants in a morgue. John Carpenter plays as the host of like this very snarky corpse that's trying to tell these stories to us, the audience. It's very engaging, breaks the fourth wall. You get cameos from Wes Craven. Mark Hamill stars, Sam Raimi as well. I think this one doesn't get enough love. Body Bags, I think, is just a perfect blend of what Creepshow provides, as well as something that is going to give you horror like Trick or Treat in the 80s, however, or excuse me, in the 90s. This is the good time. This is a good hangout horror anthology. What are your thoughts on Body Bags? Let me know down in the comments below. Does it get enough love, or is it, just an alright anthology? I think it's great. It's one of my favorites. Coming in at number 6. This is kind of a switch from the horror, but it does have horror elements, but it also is so 80s. This is 1984's Dungeon Master, or if you want to call it, Rage Wars. Now, hear me out here. This is a hybrid, I know, but it does do a great job of kind of putting a twist on horror anthologies. It does have an overarching story. However, our characters is a couple who get kidnapped by basically Satan, and the hero of our story, he has a Nintendo Power Glove and has to survive 7 different challenges that Satan throws at him. And these 7 challenges kind of play the role of the anthology shorts as well. He finds different ways to defeat these obstacles and challenge the Dungeon Master as well. This is such 1980s insanity. It's so cheese and pulpy. However, I can't help but really enjoy and recommend this one. It is, I would consider an anthology because each of the different challenges are from different filmmakers as well. So tonally, it changes beat by beat, just like a horror anthology. So you can get it through the Arrow Empire Screams. Here, I really enjoyed it. If you like 80s fantasy, sci-fi, and horror, Dungeon Master might be the one for you. Coming at number 7 is one of my most pleasant surprises and discoveries for this list. This is from 1985. This is a Stephen King short that has to do with one of my favorite animals, cats. I'm talking about Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye is basically a loose connection of stories where this one cat who maneuvers around New York City and goes through the we see things from the cat's perspective. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but actually it kind of works. In our first bit, the cat is captured by a pet control and is taken to a rich millionaire company CEO, and where we meet James Woods. James Woods here is trying to quit smoking, and this company is basically blackmailing him to quit. In our second story, we have The Ledge, which is basically like a Hitchcock Vertigo type of story, pure anxiety, and honestly has some comedic beats to it as well, with the cat always being present in the stories. And then finally, we get a very young Drew Barrymore as well, having to battle a little nightmare goblin with the help of her cat. So Cat's Eye from 1985 to me is such an underrated horror anthology. I really enjoy this one. This is just what anthologies are all about. And when you throw a cat in there too, I'm going to be a sucker for it. Coming in at number 8 is one of the best horror anthologies. I'm not even going to cap. I'm not even lying. This is one of the best with some of the best horror segments of all horror anthologies. This is from 1990, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie has everything you love in a horror anthology. Overarching story that's very engaging and entertaining, check. Has some great cameos from A-list actors before they broke into the big times, check. All 3, not 1 week segment from the 3, check, check, and check. This is one of the best horror anthologies. You get Mummies with Steve Buscemi and Christian Slater. You also get a modern day witch suburban mom trying to eat a child as an overarching story, highly engaging and entertaining. You also get The Cat from Hell, another cat horror story with this gangster trying to kill this malicious cat that just won't die. And then one of the most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, and truly great narratives in a gargoyle story. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is one of the best, and I highly recommend, if you're going to check out any of these, this is going to be the must-watch. This is the one you have to watch. This is one of the best. If you've seen Tales from the Dark Side, let me know what your favorite segment is, because mine is always changing. On every rewatch of this anthology, it's always changing which my favorite one is. I love this movie to death. I love all 3 segments as well. Tales from the Dark Side has to be on here. Coming up next at number 9 is going to be one that's going to be pleasing to the fans. If you're someone who absolutely loves Damien Leone and you love Art the Clown, then this is the anthology horror for you. In 2013, Damien Leone actually put out a horror anthology called All Hallows Eve. This is actually such a pivotal movie in his filmography because it is actually the first time ever we see Art the Clown. Now, Damien Leone's 3-story anthology is pretty interesting and very visceral and very much a predecessor to what is to come later on, now that we're all the way at Terrifier 3 and I believe a Terrifier 4 on the way. The premise of the story is that a babysitter on Halloween night is watching 2 kids, and one of them finds a VHS tape put in their goodie bag. Now, what's inside this VHS tape? Curiosity kills the cat here, because they end up starting to watch it and realize it's basically snuff films on tape, but they believe it's actually just a movie, and she decides to be the cool little babysitter, let the kids watch, and it actually starts to terrify them. Later on in the movie, it seems to show that this is not actually just a movie, that these are almost like live recordings, which doesn't make sense. You get an element of the supernatural in this as well. But basically, you get a short film of a girl who runs into Art the Clown in a subway station and tries to escape his clutches. Another one with an extraterrestrial as well, which is oddly offbeat for this anthology. And then you get one again with a hitchhiker, and then it turns out to be, to me, a prequel to what would end up happening in the beginning of Terrifier. Has that very Damien Leone atmosphere and gore and violence as well, all contained in nice little stories. This is arguably for those who like those kind of like low budget horror anthologies and ones that kind of feel visceral and mean. This is gross. This is low budget. It's kind of weirdly effective for the kind of tone in this movie, like the low budget aspect of it. It's very nasty. I think it's almost up there with Terrifier in terms of the violence and the gore in some aspects, especially with Art. Again, it's just for those who love the clown. So if you haven't checked it out, check out All Hallows Eve. At number 10, now we're kind of getting to the little bit more of the what I call background movies. These are movies that you put in the background. They're not necessarily bad. They're not the best, but they're still entertaining. And they're just movies that give you a good vibe where you can just put it on the background, get a blanket, and enjoy the stories that you're going to be told. At number 10, nothing epitomizes this more than from 1971, The House That Dripped Blood. The House That Dripped Blood is an Amicus horror, and I have a history with Amicus where I'm not the biggest fan. However, this one was a little bit more pleasantly surprising. You get Peter Cushing. You also get Christopher Lee in here as well. In some, I think it's 5 shorts here that are more gothic than I would say horror and blood and guts and things like that. This is more atmospheric horror. This private investigator goes to a local town where this house is basically haunted. There's another death that's happened, and the police there have to explain the history of this house and the tenants who reside where the house basically tests to see if they're worthy to live there. Now, these 4 or 5 shorts are pretty entertaining. Some are pretty weak, but however, they all epitomize what this movie's going for. Gothic atmospheric horror. Christopher Lee plays a dad, where his daughter is not as cute and sincere as she's let out to be. Peter Cushing with the Wax Museum. There's some good times in here to be had. But again, this is an Amicus British horror anthology, so it's not for everyone, but I do recommend at least checking it out. At number 11 is a 1990s horror anthology. I love the vibes of this one because it's just what I love about summer horror. This is Campfire Tales from 1997. Campfire Tales basically is the group of teenagers who are telling scary stories around a campfire at night, explaining what happens in these woods. You get a James Marsden cameo. You get a Ron Livingston and Amy Smart before they break it big. You basically, the stories are urban legends from the woods. You get urban legends like the Hookman who's running around the woods. You get ghostly hitchhikers as well. You just get a little bit of everything in this one. Like I said, they're urban legends. So, about a guy in the back of your car, not, turning off on the wrong spot at, the wrong turn off at night. You get some, like I said, some entertaining blood and guts, horror stories here. However, the overarching story is where I think this movie shines the best because, it is pretty strong and entertaining. You feel for the teenagers as well. You also do get kind of like a TV movie vibe to this, which is kind of engaging and entertaining. This is a cozy one as well. At number 11, Campfire Tales. At 12 I'm gonna throw in another Amicus horror. This one I did enjoy just a little bit more than The House That Dripped Blood. This is from 1981. This is The Monster Club. The Monster Club stars Vincent Price, Donald Pleasance. What I love about this is just the setting of this. Vincent Price plays a vampire that basically sucks the blood of his favorite horror author and brings him to the Monster Club, a club where all monsters basically live it up as like a rock, like a metal underground club. You get werewolves, you get people in masks that are absolutely ridiculous, and you get 3 different musical numbers with like heavy metal, 80s pop glam rock. It's pretty entertaining, and they're all like horror Halloween themed songs that are pretty good. If you want to make an awesome horror playlist, the Monster Club is going to be your best bet for it. But what I love about it is basically Vincent Price as the vampire explains the family lineage tree of all the most iconic horror monsters in 3 different stories. You get the vampire dad, you get a ghoulish town, you get one that's kind of sweet, but they all turn dark at the end. This movie is just absolutely camp. Vincent Price is just such a ham in this movie. It's just so entertaining. Like I said, the setting is what steals the show of this anthology horror. This is the last Amicus horror, I believe, as well. Kind of has like that sending off vibe to it, and you get the full musical numbers in this as well. So it's a little bit hokey, but I absolutely enjoyed this one. At number 12, The Monster Club. At number 13 is one of my personal favorite horror anthologies, one that I don't think gets enough love, and I would argue is better than the first. At 1987 is Creepshow 2. Creepshow 2, let me explain. Creepshow 2 is the sequel to the iconic Creepshow. I think is a little bit better because it's shorter. It's short and sweet in scale. Basically get 3 short stories here, and instead of a comic book story where the kid is reading the Creepshow comics, this is like an animated movie where the boy is animated with reading the Creepshow comics. Tom Savini is the ghoul goblin who's basically the host of this as well, and honestly has one of the best horror segments as well, let alone in the entire Creepshow line. Basically Creepshow 1, 2, and I would say Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is like the spiritual third movie from this, where Creepshow 2 has The Raft. The Raft is one of the best, where basically teenagers are swimming to a raft and then they can't get out of it because of this mysterious goo that's in the water. You also get Chief Wootenhead, which I actually do enjoy as well. It's kind of a teary-eyed one. And then you also get The Hitchhiker, which is one that makes you want to think about picking up a hitchhiker while also reconsidering that infidelity you may be trying to commit. I do enjoy Creepshow 2. I do like the animated aspect of the bullies with the boy. This is a good time, and it just got a new 4K announcement as well. I highly recommend you check out Creepshow 2, and let me know down in the comments below. Are you a Creepshow 2er, or do you enjoy the original? Let me know and sound off in the comments. At number 14 is one from an iconic horror director, one that it took me a while to finally get to, and I'm so glad I did, and I wish I got to it a lot quicker. This is at number 14 from 1963, Mario Bava's Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath stars Boris Karloff, the iconic actor who's played the Mummy, Frankenstein, the Monster, Arden Bay. This is an Italian gothic horror movie. This is one where basically Boris Karloff is the host explaining these creepy tales that are so well done. We get one about stealing jewelry from the elderly in one of the most creepy prosthetics that I've seen in a horror short. You also get a very Scream-inspired short with the telephone as well, where a woman is being stalked on the telephone by a mysterious murder suitor, which is very giallo-like, but also gives me opening to Scream energy as well. And then you also get one of Boris Karloff's best in The Wardelak, which is a ancient Dracula story that is so well done. If you haven't seen the most recent Shudder movie, The Wardelak, and this one is very similar in story beats, but I just absolutely love Boris Karloff's portrayal in this. It's very creepy. The set pieces are so amazing. They're so awesome. The color scheme is great. I love Boris Karloff as the host in this. I just like hosts in my anthologies. Body Bags provided it as well. Black Sabbath is one that you can't miss. 3 short stories. They feel very ancient, but they're very eerie and stylish at the same time, and they hold up. So at number 14, Black Sabbath. And finally, at number 15, I got one more Amicus for you, but this is probably my favorite Amicus horror. I absolutely love this one. I think you can pick it up through Severin, which I do intend to pick up at some point as well. This one stars Peter Cushing and one of my favorite directors in Ray Milland. This is 1977's The Uncanny. The Uncanny, why I absolutely love this one is each story is terrifying because it revolves around, wait for it, a cat. A creepy cat. Peter Cushing is trying to publish a story that warns the public about how vicious and malicious and evil cats can be. Ray Milland stars as his publisher, who hears these different pieces of evidence that Peter Cushing has investigated and researched and explains. One having to do with an old lady basically doing an Aristocats, where she's basically giving her inheritance to her cats in a very shockingly graphic and gory portrayal of cats and what they do to get revenge. And then you get another one as well where a girl gets back at one of her foster siblings with the help of her cat as well. And then you get one with Donald Pleasance again. Donald Pleasance is all over with these anthology horrors where basically he kills his wife and the cat gets revenge for her. And one of the more pulpy, goofy anthology segments, but The Uncanny for me holds up is a very entertaining and worthwhile anthology, and one of the pleasant surprises as well, because if you're someone who is an animal lover or likes animal horror, The Uncanny has everything that you need. And again, like I said, Peter Cushing, Ray Milland, they play off each other so well. Love the overarching story of the narrative in this, and it makes you want to second guess what's going on in that cat's head of yours. I watch it with my cat next to me, and I definitely am going to be very careful with what I say and how I do things around her. So at number 15, and finally, The Uncanny. And that's the list. That's 15 horror anthologies that range from things that are iconic to how did I even miss this? How come I've never heard of this and I have to check it out? And if you made it this far, please hit the subscribe button and go check out our other videos as well. And that way you hit that notification so you don't lose any updates on what's going on in this channel as well. I will be doing a live stream coming next week as well on the Mega Mike show. So I'll make sure to put a link of that in the community page here as well. Let me know in the comments, do you like horror anthologies? Is there any that you definitely want to check out after this video? Maybe I'll do even a part 2 if you'd like. Let me know down and sound off in the comments below. That'll do it all for today, and thank you all for tuning in to another episode here at Figure Out Films. My name is Chris, and remember, if you are not watching horror anthologies, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, I'll see you next time.